Hey guys, what's going on? This is Roth. I am here at New York Comic Con with Mark Goffman and Len Wiseman. Talk a little Sleepy Hollow. So if you're not caught up, go get caught up really quickly. It's fun this season. We're going to dig into some spoilers.
So far.
So first of all, I was watching it the other day, and I was thinking I was loving Ichabod's quips this season. And I wanted to talk to you guys about the balance between sort of the drama and the humor and the play and all that, how you're striking that.
I think one of the things, just as it's very important to us that we have just an emotional groundedness to the characters, and that if we're emotionally invested in them, it allows us to go a lot of places with the humor. And so it's actually been a fun balance, because once we were able to strike the real relationships, then it's allowed us to open up and actually have a ton of fun with them.
But it really comes from us walking through saying, okay, if you're from the 18th century, you walk into a bank, what happens? Well, you might try to get the pen, and it's attached to the table, and that's unusual. And then getting, Tom is so great with physical humor, too, that just getting to play those little moments. But we like to really walk through and step out some of the little fun like that, as well as some of the more, fun social commentary he can have, where he goes on a rant about Adam Smith and the invisible hand. And
there's moments that I feel like he's doing his money changers speech. He had one like that in the bank the other week. I think it was this last episode, actually. So can you talk a little bit about, are you sort of tracing him getting more and more comfortable in this century? Is there a point that being a man out of time, he's less and less one?
I think there's so much for him to catch up to. So I don't necessarily think that he's going to adapt to certain things, of course. But I think it's too fun to see how there'd be so much to really catch up on. So no, we're going to play with that for a long time.
He's a stranger in a strange land, and there is just so much that you can find in modern America that's always changing, even for us. That I think for someone, we have coming up, there's a moment where he finds a technology that's about 15 years old, and he talks about how strange and antiquated that seems to him now, knowing today's technology. Right. And I mean, it just shows how much things have even changed for somebody within a generation.
Yeah, he should start talking about the iPhone too.
Right, exactly.
It also looks like, this is what's really interesting to me, it looks like there's going to be gearing up to a battle between the two horsemen, a manipulated battle. Yes, can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, why don't you talk about that? I'll end up doing something that needs to be completely erased. So.
I think what's fun on the show, and one thing we really like to do, is humanize all the characters. So with getting to have the Horseman of Death as Abraham von Brunt, who was formerly Katrina's betrothed, as well as Ichabod's former best friend. There's a lot of really rich drama to play there. So he's not just evil; he's a character.
I felt bad for him the other day.
Oh, good.
The other episode.
I mean, we will not lose his badassishness, but I think throughout the season we're going to see that he's a real person. He's got a drive and motivation, and he's not always going to get along with Henry.
No, and I think it really does. Just the more depth that kind of character has, where you realize it's not just a monster. And when I think at any point when you can, at any kind of story, when you can start to understand what the villain is doing, and though his actions may seem extreme, but you understand what's behind it, and if behind that is a frustrated love, then you're kind of torn on what he's doing. So I think that always makes them the most the interesting villain.
Yeah, and you can see how Henry being stuck in a box for 200 years, and used and abused and abandoned, gives a certain amount of drive and perspective on his character, and he's a mastermind. Yeah. So and of course John Noble's just brilliant. So
he's so amazing. I mean, it's such a talented cast in general, but John Noble does bring so much gravitas, I think, with him. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about Henry? Because I've been curious. I mean, is there a redemption available at all for this character, this angry man?
Is there redemption? I love that. Is there redemption available? I'd love that just as a store, just myself. Just call it redemption available. There'd be such a long line for that. Yes, like I said about with with a lot of our characters, it is there's complexities about what he's doing, what's underneath all of that years and years of anger, and is there still a human inside of him? and that's something that we're absolutely, digging into.
Yeah, if you like John Noble, we have a lot of him this season, which is really great because his character just kind of stepped in about midway through our first season this year, being really a part of Sleepy Hollow. He takes hold, and the fact that he is such a mastermind, he's always going to be thinking several steps ahead, and so that question of redemption is something that's very, very hard to tell, and he's very calculated in the way that he approaches it. So
yeah, well, okay,
and we're hopeful. I think and he's playing on our hopes.
Yeah, well, I think you're feeling for his parents. You're hopeful because they're hopeful. Speaking of his parents, let's talk a little bit about Ichabod and Abby and trust, because there was a moment when she looked at the coin where I felt like something connected and you knew who she was going to betray. Do you know who that was? Or was it just the idea that maybe she would betray someone?
Oh,
Glad you picked up on that.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, there was somebody that she was that goes through her mind. I wonder if if people really draw their own conclusions and how many people would come up with the same person.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought she was going to take out his wife. Not out of jealousy, but just
from our side, at least from my side of it, that wasn't it.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, but there is somebody. Does she know?
There is somebody.
Does the character Abby know?
I think the character knows. I think we all have an idea of who that one that we would want to betray is.
Interesting.
Len.
Okay. Can they ever really trust each other though? Because he does kind of have a lot of conflicting loyalties going on right now.
They need therapy, bad, fast. It's a lot to. Are you talking about
Ichabod and Abby?
Oh, Ichabod and Abby.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trust issues. There's Ichabod and Katrina as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they're bound for therapy. There's a lot of trust issues going on with them, of course, and their relationship is a very interesting one for us too. In terms of how much they actually do adore each other, and how much he is in love with his wife, and so there's a lot of complication within the three of them.
Yeah, I think Abby is really steadfast. She's so business, and I think in this season really embracing this role of witness and just trying to discover what that means for her. We really start to unpack. You'll find more about it in the next few episodes. What that means to her family, and there's all kinds of secrets that now become clear about her past that she just she didn't have all the information before, and I think that changes her worldview.
I know I got to wrap you guys. I just have to ask you really quickly. I know we've got the 5th underworld coming. It's not going to connect to the story threads in the 4th one. What sort of is it going to explore, and are you ever going to pick up those story threads ever again? There's
a few things being developed right now, and there's some characters that we really like. That is kind of more of a spin-off of some of the characters, like we did with Rise of the Lycans. And then another film is also being developed in the works with Kate possibly as well. So and then there's a television series as well. So it's kind of expanding that universe in many ways. So
which will we see first?
You tell me. I don't know. Everything's in development, and there's a lot of releases that are out there that aren't actually true. But it takes too long to wrap all that up.
Thank you guys so much for your time. I'm looking forward to seeing more from Sleepy Hollow this season. For all things Sleepy Hollow and New York Comic Con, do keep it locked right here to IGN.